Let's just get back a bit. Let's try get from front to back all in the same shot. Okay, so we're just trying to get into a position, and hopefully we're going to be engulfed by buffalo. There we go. So as these buffalo move towards us, this is quite a wonderful photographic opportunity, so get your screenshots ready. I'm going to pop a few photographs as well. And share your screenshots with us on our Facebook page, Safari Live, or pop them on Twitter with the hashtag Safari Live. Now, Angel Lady's saying she's seen baby lions, baby leopard, baby elephant all play, but she's never seen baby buffalo play. Do they ever do that? They do, but not as commonly, and also not. I think there's going to be very little playfulness this year. I think there's also going to be quite a high mortality rate for the calves this year because of the drought. It's always the old and the young to go first. Brian, there's that female that stopped to look at. Let's just have a look at her eye there quickly. It looked like there was something funny happening on her face. A little bit to the left. That one, I think it's just the way the light was shining. So I'm looking for young calves, and I'm not seeing too many so far. I've seen quite a few sub-adults, but no young babies, which is unusual in a big herd of buffalo because they do breed throughout the year. So they don't have a set breeding season. Now, keep looking. You might see a little one between the legs of the others. Some of them stopping to give us a sniff as they go past. Oh, there's a nice big dominant bull there, and he's showing a bit of interest in that female to the right, Brian. And he's just behind this female, and he looked like he was going to try get a bit frisky. And you'll see his head pop out shortly, and you can see he's a monster. Now there's a really lovely comparison between male and female buffalo. As he turns his head, you see that massive boss and that hardened layer of hair that makes up the horns of the animals, and the female next to him, she doesn't have that developed boss. You can also see the body size difference between a big male in his prime and a cow. Oh, having a little canter past us. I think initially I said, oh, I still think 300, 350. But still no very small babies. Now, Sean says the buffalo remind him of rush hour every morning while he's trying to get to the train. Well, this is our sort of morning traffic jam, and it's definitely a traffic jam of choice for me. So still no young babies. Now, that's very, very interesting, especially in a herd this size. We would have expected to see at least a couple. Oh, there you go. Found a nice convenient scratching post. You can hear the oxpeckers chirping about as well. Now, it's always good to check on these big herds of buffalo. You do find yellow-billed oxpeckers sometimes. They're slightly more rare than the red-billed, but we have been seeing them quite frequently. And now the buffalo are literally parting around us. There's another one of the bulls. It's still not a young calf. And look, there's some zebra coming in behind. Brian, how many do you think?
Oh, over 100 easily.
I'm definitely thinking probably around 300, 350 maybe. So I think the second biggest herd of buffalo we've seen this year, this dry season. And look at this, they're still coming. Snorting. I love the sounds of buffalo herd mates. So these are the youngest ones I've seen so far, and they're by no means whippersnappers, but now if you watch a buffalo herd carefully, they've got a very interesting strategy. They're one of the only bovids that are able to, the babies are able to drink on the move. They actually walk between the mom's back legs, drinking while they move. And of course, it enables them to feed while the herd is on the move. And these big herds of buffalo are quite constantly on the move. See, some of them are a bit nervous. Now, the biggest herd of buffalo I've ever seen in the Sabi Sands is around 1,000. But these buffalo are heading off towards our northern boundary, so we're going to let them go, and hopefully we can find a lion on their trail. But while we do that, James has got something reptilian to show you.
Right, everybody, here we are. We're at basically the area where the two Matimbas have killed their buffalo. We're not far from them, we think. They're in the shade here somewhere. The kill is just up ahead. I unfortunately cannot move though while we are live. That is the biggest water monitor lizard I've ever seen. And so we're just going to sit around here for a little while and see if we can't spot the lions. We'll reverse around, and apparently they're on the northern side of this fairly substantial drainage line. And we'll go and see if we can't find them. Anyway, so that's the update there. That is by far the biggest water monitor lizard I've ever seen. Liam, you?
Do you think it's possible he ate the lions?
I think he might have eaten the lions, actually. Right, we're going to try and move, everyone. We'll see if it's possible. If you do go black screen, poor old Brent is going to be live again in short order. I'll quickly try and show you the kill, but I think as we move you're going to lose those.
So there we go, we're about to leave, and then we just decided to stay a little bit longer as the last sort of dregs of the herd come through. And also there's a very nice little harem of zebra just behind them. So at the back of the herd we start seeing, although they're not in too bad a shape yet, I mean, in that initial drought we had some very skinny looking buffalo, but they're not too bad. There we go. Two bulk grazers together. So, Sandy's been listening to us talk about how hard the drought's going to be. So I just want to show you the back end of this herd, dust they're creating as they walk away from us. So Sandy is saying, well, if there's water and these pumped water holes, why is it so hard during the drought? Well, Sandy, an animal like a buffalo weighs around 1,000 pounds, give or take. So it's a very big animal, therefore it needs to eat quite a lot to keep that size. And as you can see, as these buffalo walk through here, there's very little to eat. So even if there is water, there's almost no grass this season. And even that late little rain that gave a little flush of grass was not ideal, because if we even go taste what it normally really sweet grasses, really good grasses, they had very little time, and the rain came right at the end of their growing season, so those grasses are holding very little nutrients, the few that are left. I mean, there we go, look at that, that's what I wanted to show you. There's about 300 to 400 bottoms in a row. You can see the dust created by a herd like this. Now, in certain parts of Africa, the way you find buffalo is by looking for big clouds of dust, and also always a good way to find a lion. So, as I said, we didn't see one tiny little calf in this herd, and Sally's wondering, will the drought affect the amount of babies born? Probably not the amount, Sally, but definitely the survival rate. So, one of the biggest problems that the females will have during a time of drought like this is milk production. So even if they give birth to a healthy-ish young buffalo, they're unable to feed it. And also you might find there might be quite a few stillborns if the females are not in good condition when they do give birth, or sort of very runty buffalo that are going to have trouble surviving. And even then, because those babies are born and the female's milk production's probably not so good, those baby buffalo, the first ones the lions grab. So now they're marching to the northeast. So in that direction, they're heading towards the Gabbro Plains of the Western Kruger National Park. So there's likely to be more grass there, but there's no water. So they've got to do this long trek between water and food. And that also obviously affects condition. It's a spectacular sight. And we've caused a bit of a traffic jam behind us. So we're going to leave them be, see what else we can find out here in the east. I'm going to go do a little dabble to the red soil road that I really like, because it's where we find the dominant female leopard in this area most often. Kanyonini. Chatting about leopards, Kelly in Florida is wondering, will female or related female leopards ever work together to successfully raise their cubs? Now, as a general rule, absolutely not. But there has been one very, very strange incident that has been recorded in the Sabi Sands, and I happened to be lucky enough to witness it. It was probably now 11 years ago, and it was the first recorded case of leopard adoption ever. So our dominant female in the center of Londolozi was called the 3-4 female, and her daughter, the Dudley Riverbank female, used to be slightly more to the east, and they happened to have a boundary, very similar boundary to sort of what Karula and Shadow share here, and they both had cubs at the time, and the Dudley Riverbank female had 2 cubs. 2 males at the time were about 5 months, 5.5 months old, and 3-4 female had 1 cub who was a bit younger. So they happened to bypass, and the 1 cub stayed with his grandmother and his uncle, even though he was younger than him, and actually outcompeted the older female's cub that had died, and ended up staying with his grandmother till independence. And that is the first and only ever case of leopard adoption that we know of. And of course, stuff like this might happen in areas that we don't traverse often, and we might not know what happens there. But as we do spend a lot of time with leopards, and the fact that it's only been seen once, you probably find it is a very, very rare occurrence. There's even a big scientific paper on it. Always like to check carefully in this area. It doesn't look like there are any tracks today. She might still be in the Kruger. She does sometimes like to leave her cubs on this termite mound here. So we just got to get through this little dip here where our comms are very bad, and it'll take me about 2 minutes to get to a spot where I'll be able to hear again. And I think we've got quite an interesting question from, I think it's Ram, but just let me get a little bit higher, and I'll be able to hear it. Okay, we should have our comms back now. We're out of that little dip. This is the area where the cheetah crossed into Kruger yesterday, well, from what you can see of the tracks. So Ram would like to know whether leopards know that vehicles have people in them, or which animals might identify vehicles with people. Now, this is quite an interesting one because quite a few of us differ on whether the leopards know the vehicles have people, and I think everyone's got their own opinion. I personally don't think they know, and the pure reason for that is, if they knew, they would behave very similar to the way they do on foot. So they would move away from you or try to hide from you. But in the vehicle, you can get very close to them. It doesn't smell like a person, it doesn't look like a person, and for them, I mean, it smells of petrol and oil and all those other terrible things. So I don't think they realize there's people in the vehicles. And that's just judging from their behavior to a vehicle as opposed to how they behave to you on foot. And I would have to say the same for most animals. I think probably an animal that does know that there's a person in the vehicle are the 2 primates. I would say the baboon and vervet monkey, but far more interesting, James has got something big and hairy and scary to show you.
Everyone, this is just so wonderful. We're here, I mean, it's been a real trial getting into this area and to try and find you some signal. But here are the Matimba males. That is the red-headed one we had, red-headed one, Blondie, I think you called him. And his black-maned brother is close by too. And they've left their kill. I don't really understand why they would have. And they do seem to be in very good condition. They're fat, they're looking strong. They are substantially larger than the Birmingham boys. Really, I mean, they're a lot bigger. And now they've left their kill. I think they've either decided that they've sired sufficient cubs for them to be sort of satisfied with their lives. And here's the other one. This is a proper male lion. Look at him. Isn't he fantastic? I'm just going to quickly tell them that I've found them again. I relocated just to the north of the power lines. Good visual here. Affirmative. They came towards power lines. They're now just off power lines. One of them is static. Isn't that lovely? And in excellent condition. You can see not thin at all. They're fat, and they're not just fat from eating. I mean, they're fat from months and months of good eating. Full maned, full big black mane this fellow has. Yeah, FM. Now, Colleen, you're in Minnesota and you want to know how long a coalition of males survives. Well, it'll survive until one of them dies. Look at his hair. His name, that's why you called him Hairy Belly, of course. He's got hair on his beard extends almost like a Barbary lion down to the belly. Let's follow them. Unusual that they're moving, unusual that they've left the kill, unusual that lions in such incredible condition are seemingly without territory. They're almost nomadic, which is bizarre. And Blondie, I think, was he called Blondie? What did they call him? Ginger. It was Ginger and Hairy Belly. So Ginger has still got the same wound, that same weeping wound that he's always had on his right foot. It's still weeping, it's still raw and red, but it doesn't seem to affect him. I don't know, maybe these fellows have just decided that it's too hard, there are too many males around, and they're just going to live out their lives as bachelors.
That's what I would have.
And not fight for territory. And maybe that's, I mean, from their point of view, they're in excellent shape. From an evolutionary point of view, but I've got to tell you, they're a lot more conscious of the vehicles than I've ever seen them before. And they certainly have been, I wouldn't say running away from us, but every time we come near them, they do look up. They were on the move. There they are. Sorry, let me try and get into a decent position. We'll get you a one shot of both of them, then you can see the different colours. I'm sure some of you have never met these chaps before, and you can see the luscious locks of the black mane there of Hairy Belly, and the slightly less luscious locks of his brother Ginger. Now, what I would really like to see, Junior has been around here. I would love to see them meet up with him. That would be fascinating. So, I mean, you saw there, just watch your head there, Vimpy. You saw there, everyone, how they looked up at us. Or the black man looked up at us. You know, these lions don't normally do that. They normally don't. I mean, you can almost run them over before they react to you. Let me go around this little bush here, and then we'll get a good view. The big stump. Ninzane kwalan.
Ayo. Ati cacat.
Tipu cacil.
Ati rumah.
It's just, yeah, name. Yeah, Tivon. So he's just saying there that they have, I'm going to stop here. They're reacting to the vehicles, you know. They're absolutely reacting to the vehicles. And he was just saying here that he has seen them give a little bit of a charge once or twice to the cars. I think that was probably earlier this morning. Now that is completely bizarre behavior for these two lions. We know them well. We know that they didn't used to do that at all. And it is purely a fact or function of the fact that they are threatened, that they don't have a territory, they are not confident anymore. Let's just watch this here. See how he's moving? He's trying to get away from the cars. It's so unusual to have to treat lions with kid gloves like this. There you can see on his foot, you can see that little wound still there. He's not limping at all. It's so odd. Hey Jim? I'll just reverse a little bit. I'm not going to go any closer to them.
Reverse. That gap there will have a good shot.
Into that gap.
Where that dead stuff is lying in the
Okay. Okay, I'm just picking the correct spot for us to get a decent view. I find this absolutely astounding. And I know that many of you are extremely excited to see these chaps again. I am too. I don't think they'll be around for long. But here they are. Is that right? Now, the next time you see the Birmingham boys, and the next time you're impressed by their size and by the fullness of their manes, just cast your mind back to the sighting that we've had here. These two males, I would say, are about 20% heavier than those two Birmingham fellows. Their manes, certainly the black manes, are far fuller, which indicates in theory that they are much more filled with testosterone. These are two big male lions, and they're of course the sires to Junior. Junior is a very big fellow, is going to be a very big fellow. I'm assuming it's the black mane that is Junior's father, just given that he seems to be the more dominant of the two. But it could be the ginger. Well, the Chitra chap has gone quite close to them now, and they seem to be completely relaxed about it. Well, this is what lions do now. I'm sorry that, Viam and I watched them from quite a while before you got to us, and that's simply because we just didn't have any signal down in the deep drainage line there. But I'm sorry that you didn't get to see them moving around a bit more. I think they will probably remain where they are now for the rest of the day. Hello, Crazy Critter. That's a nice Twitter handle. You say, will the darker mane make a difference to their excuse me, to their mating success? Yes, absolutely it will. Simply because they have more testosterone and therefore they're more willing to fight for the opportunity to mate. They tend to be more, I hate to use the term aggressive, but yeah, they do tend to be more aggressive with each other. We'll try and go a little bit closer now. Just now that they seem to have settled down, I'm sure we can get in a little bit closer, have a look at both of them. We'll just do a little twist around here, try not to make too much noise. Christy, you want to know if I think they will hurt Junior? No, I don't think they would. I think they'd recognize him as their own offspring. It's not unusual for very old male lions to set up kind of a coalition with younger lions. These guys are without a territory. Their son is without a territory. Their son might want a territory. And so, you know, it's not entirely unlikely or impossible that they should form a coalition with him. We don't really want that to happen in this area, because as we know, the Birminghams have set themselves up, they've got cubs, and we don't want that whole process to be sort of undone. Now they're acting like the Matimbas we know, which is basically to just look magnificent and not do very much. Drive straight at them, but we'll just do it slowly. How's that for you, Ian?
They're just behind your head.
Is that alright? Yeah, he's giving us the hairy eyeball, I tell you. Now they say you shouldn't look a lion in the eye. Well, I'm looking him straight in the eye now. Now, Sally, you're in Oregon and you say you've never seen them before. You're a newcomer. And you say you can definitely see the difference. Yeah, it is amazing. Yeah, they're watching, eyes open. In? Inyama. Ile phakathi enkoveni le. Ile khule, ile 250 meters. Yeah, ile khule. Mara lokhu utavona minkonzo ya mingena le power line mitayikuma easy ingena le. Yeah. Just quickly giving him an indication as to where the kill is. And a question about whether another rumble in the jungle could be in the offing. Could we see another sort of counter territory takeover? And that's Sean who's wondering that. Sean, I think it's highly unlikely. I don't know why they would have left. And of course the Birminghams now are established. They're bigger, certainly, than they were when they took over the territory. These two guys actually didn't, I'm not sure that they ever set sight on the Birminghams. They heard them calling and they got up one morning, almost exactly a year ago, and disappeared. So I don't think that the two of them would take on the full Birminghams, no. There's something about those eyes, though, that is slightly unnerving, and that's simply because they're unusually open. Male lion's eyes, normally when we watched these two before, you'd just find them fast asleep. Those eyes would not be looking at us. They'd be fast asleep. And I'm pretty sure that that will be the case again. Just moving very slowly in my seat. You can just see him flicking his tail a little bit. What's she saying?
No, getting cell phone interference.
I'm afraid it's not my phone. I'm sure it was from the other vehicle. Yeah. Now he seems to be going to sleep. But there was just a little bit of tail flicking, and there are no flies around at the moment. And of course a lion, in exactly the same way as a house cat will flick its tail when it's about to attack something. Now he's not about to attack, but he's still watching us very carefully. Very unusual. Very indicative of a lion that's been threatened by the lack of a territory. Now Sale, very valid question, how old are they? Well, as far as I was aware, they were 10 about a year ago, so they must be about 11 now. They look like about 10 or 11-year-old male lions. So I would go with about 10. There were 4 of them, and they took over the territory as 4, and then 2 of them sort of skedaddled off into Kruger and north of the Manuleti, and they split up their territory, and it's sort of since been, separated, if you like, by the territory of the Salati males in Buffelshoek, and they didn't come together again. And this is, of course, I think, why the tenure out here was never that great. The Majingaland coalition, who've been the dominant western coalition of the Sabi Sands now, I think, for about 4 years, have always come together when there's trouble. As soon as there's, they have split up every so often, and they kind of keep 2 to one side and 2 to the other. But when there's trouble, they all come together, and that did not happen in the case of the Matimbas. Now they are sleeping soundly. Margaret, you want to know if that's dirt or ticks on his belly? Let me just get, I think it's flies, actually. Let me just get my binoculars out. Just flies, Margaret. At this stage, I'm sure there are 1 or 2 ticks there, especially in that thick mat of hair that he has down by the fat end of his belly. I say they're in good condition without it.
You think you've actually lost his dew claw? Because that was the...
That may well be the case, yeah, actually. Good point. He probably has lost his dew claw. Now the dew claw is the 5th claw. Where your thumb would be, they have something called a dew claw. Very important for hunting normally. It's the kind of it's the clincher. And grab your house cat or your dog and just feel a little bit up towards the carpal joints or towards the wrist joint, and you will feel where that dew claw pops out just below there. Fascinating. Sally, another one from you. Thank you for your question. You say, do lions breathe so heavily all the time? No, they don't, but they always breathe that heavily when they are full. These guys are full of buffalo meat. We were unable to get into a position where we could show you the buffalo and still maintain signal, I'm afraid. But they've eaten a huge amount of a young buffalo, and that's why they're panting. The stomach is full. They pant to oxygenate the blood around the stomach to make the digestion a bit faster. But they're not panting in the same way. Many lions will be, with their bellies as full as these guys are. I'm not sure whether... I know that there are 2 Birmingham males on Torchwood today. I don't know where the other 2 are. It's quite interesting. The day has warmed up rather magnificently. And Chris, you're in South Australia and you want to know if the Majingalan males are older than the Matimbas. Chris, no, I don't. I think that those Majingalans are 12 years old. So I think they're probably a year or two older than these chaps. They might be a quite similar age, but because they've managed to hold their coalition together, so they've managed to maintain territory for longer. They've also been seemingly more willing to fight. Although, you know, I say this, I cast aspersions on our lions, and I cast aspersions on their courage. But these guys did actually repel an attack from the Majingalan the other day. The Majingalan came to Londolozi to try and chase these chaps off, and they left. I don't think there was a physical confrontation. I've got myself into a bad position here because I can't look at the lions and you at the same time.
Move a little bit forward.
Move the car forward?
Yeah.
I can try, but if he chases us, it's going to be your fault. Okay, yeah.
Cool. Got a fire extinguisher.
Are you recording? Especially as Wendy is about as quiet and subtle as a charging bull. Eyes. Sorry, we are in a very dodgy signal area here, everyone.
Matimba. Yeah, this is the one that's serving first. This brother is behind it.
Now, Bud, you're in North Carolina, and you ask an interesting question that is going to, of course, affect all the animals out here. Is there a chance that the that the drier weather, the drought, will bring in bigger lions? No, Bud, there's no chance of that, I don't think. I mean, any bigger lions that are going to come into the area are going to do so regardless of any drought. You're going to find, I think, that there will be a period of stability because of the drought. Herbivores are going to struggle, which means there's going to be lots for lions and leopards and hyenas and cheetah to eat, and that means that they're not going to be wandering further afield to try and extend their territories because there will be no necessity for that. So I think that you find as the drought persists, so the stability within the predator numbers will be almost absolute. I'm just going to take my jersey off so you may hear a little bit of ruffling. Yeah, now you see, Paige, I was just thinking the same thing. You're in Tennessee, and I don't know if you're right or not, but you say, could they have moved away from the kill because of the chances of other males pitching up there? Yeah, it's possible. Definitely, I think it's very odd. It's not unusual for lions to move a little bit away from their kills, especially if they want to have a good solid snooze like these two are going to have. But I don't know that it's... I mean, I don't think that they would consciously have thought that there was another, other male lions in the area, unless maybe there was some roaring around here last night. Maybe it's possible that there was roaring from the other two Birminghams around here last night. There are of the Birmingham territory and almost into Matimba, at least Majingalan territory. Majingalans have a massive, massive area. And that's how these guys have managed to kind of stay under the radar between the two coalition territories. But this is much more like the Matimbas I knew. While they're incredibly magnificent when they're standing up, normally they're doing what they're doing here. We're going to sit here for a few more minutes, but while we sit here, let's go and find out what Brent's been up to.
So I'm just checking this western boundary, and I'm just hoping that one Styx lioness brought her cubs this way. but so far no tracks, and it's been really quiet here out in the east today. But I haven't forgotten about the nearly impossible tree quiz, and I think I know what tree to do. So yay. And I have done it before, but it was many moons ago. So I'm going to try find one now. So our tree fundies or experts out there, get ready, because it's going to be a tough one. Okay, now this particular tree or bush I'm looking for, I'm going to start giving you a few hints about it. It only grows on termite mounds in this area. Oh, hello. We finally found something with a heartbeat, Brian. Oh, see, there's a... How are you there, Brian? Do you want me to go back? Turn you in like that. So, there's a little breeding herd of elephants here. They're not showing that sort of very relaxed behavior. Oh, there's a tiny one coming. Hello, little one. He's sniffing us. They're not looking too relaxed. We're not going to push them. If they come towards us, that's fine. Look at the little darling. Tiny, tiny, tiny. And then there's a really big cow at the back. And I don't think she trusts us too much, by the way. She gave me a look through the bush. So it is also very thick here. There's a very young elephant there. So we're not going to push our luck with them. They are heading towards a slightly more open area. Let's try and get up ahead of them. I'm hoping there might be a few more elephants down towards the seep line up ahead. But while we maneuver around these ellies, hi Sandy. Sandy would like to know whether the bull elephants are pushed out of a herd or do they choose to leave the herd. Well, a bit of both, Sandy. So when they're young boys, sort of in their teens, they are pushed out of the herds by the females. But once they become adults, they actually choose not to be part of the herd, and they only come into those herds normally when they're in must, which is a heightened hormonal state, and the females in estrus to mate. But normally you'll find the bulls spending quite a bit more time out on their own, away from the hustle, the bustle, the screaming of the children. And big breeding herds are often very busy, lots of shouting, pushing, females chasing young males, males wrestling. So the big dominant bulls tend to prefer a slightly quieter life, away from all that hustle and bustle. So they are a bit further from the seep line than I initially thought. And I think it might be worth our while going back around towards 3 in a row pan on our way back to the north, just in case as it's warmed up, the eddies have started making their way there. But first we're going to finish continuing to check around for the sticks lions in this area. But before I forget, we were asked about wild dog and warthog babies earlier on the drive, and we got sidetracked by that massive herd of buffalo. So I'm trying to remember who asked the question. I apologize, but at least I remembered. So we are definitely going to answer it for you. I think it was Betty who asked about that. So Betty was wondering, is it the breeding season for them? Why hasn't she seen any wild dog babies or warthog babies? Well, Betty, we're not going to see any small warthog babies till probably November. They have a very set breeding season, and they're actually during what they would call their rut. So it's their mating season now, so the babies will only be towards the end of the year. Now, it is the time of the year for wild dog babies. But unfortunately, the two packs that we see are denning elsewhere. The Sands pack is denning in Ottawa, which is on Singita, and the Investec breakaway pack is denning in the Magnoleti to the northeast of us. So we're probably only going to start seeing dogs regularly after the pups are now able. Ooh, hello. That's a very nice looking lion track. We can see it meandering up the road here. But it does look to be a male to me. And there was a male with the sticks. And interesting enough, I know Mike from Cheetah Plains has driven here this morning, but those tracks are on top of his tracks. So maybe Cheetah Plains will deliver after all. So while we follow these lion tracks, let's go see what Hairy Belly and Ginger are up to.
Hairy Belly and Ginger are up to not much, to be honest. They're just sitting here doing nothing at all, which is, if you're the king of the jungle, then that's what you're able to do. Although these chaps, of course, kings without a throne at the moment. They've just woken up because Roy is just repositioning so his guests can get a picture of Ginger here. There you can hear, I don't know if you heard his guest there saying that Ginger is more red. And absolutely, that's why you all called him Ginger. And the black mane, of course, named for that bit of hair on his belly, Hairy Belly. Bit like me, Liam. I've got a hairy belly. Have you?
No, I'm more ginger.
You're more like Ginger. And you have a slightly ginger beard.
Exactly. Although I still got all my dew claws.
Yes, you've got both your dew claws. And Chris Rogue, you make another point, of course, which I'd forgotten about, that Hairy Belly has got a twitchy face. He does, doesn't he? I haven't seen him doing it today, but he has. Did you? So Liam says he's seen it. Chris Rogue, let me just move slightly forward. We might be able to see Hairy Belly's twitchy face. Say when, Liam. That is a magnificent shot. Isn't that great? Wonderful to see a lion like this. He's just looking towards the other vehicle. Brilliant stuff. I'll try and get a shot of him again. I bet by the time I've managed to organise myself sufficiently, he'll have lying down. Come on, look at me. That's it. Ooh. Full on his eyes. He's a rather splendid fellow, isn't he? And thank you all for your screenshots. Well worth it for a lion like this, aren't they? Fantastic lion he is. He really is, and he's not, I don't even think that he's the most magnificent of the two of them. Just quietly taking in the scene around him. Certainly those heavy eyes are about to shut again. No, he's up. Wow, action there. Yeah, and you know, we talk about the effect that we have on animals. That there was, I'm afraid, him moving from disturbance. There was no reason for him to move other than the fact that he had two vehicles around him. And that means that their behavior has definitely changed. Because they certainly wouldn't have worried in the slightest when we knew them before. Wouldn't you say, Liam? You think it's unusual that they're moving?
Yes. Lions usually don't move at all.
No, they don't. They're like the Sphinx, exactly. And I suppose many of you, just like Aaron, are seeing these chaps for the first time. And Chris Rogue, there you can see the odd facial twitch from our friend, hairy belly Matimba. That might be because his brother's tail is tickling him in the nose. In fact, that's exactly why. I'll just wait for Roy to move out and then we can move around a bit. I'm not going to... I think I'm going to reverse back a bit. I'll just go forward, basically to where Roy was. So Aaron, yeah, first time to see the legendary Matimba males. And of course, as you say, all of our new viewers will be amazed by the first sighting of them because they've heard so much about the legends of the Matimbas. I'm not sure those legends are necessarily that well founded given how easily they were displaced from their territories. But in terms of poster boys, well, you don't get much more magnificently posterish than these fellows. Let's go around the corner here. Right, while we do this, let's go and find out what Brent's doing and see if his tracking is...
Alas, the tracking has not paid off. Those male lion tracks went west out of our Traverse area. Done one last little check past the water at 3 in a row pan, and we're going to now start heading on one of the only roads we haven't driven on Cheetah Plains today, Ingwe Road. A leopard road. Ingwe is leopard in Shangaan, so hopefully it'll live up to its name. And that also is our northern boundary as we head back towards the west. Going to have one last squiz at the last bit of water in front of the Cheetah Plains Lodge, and if nothing, I think we're going to start heading for home. But I am a little jealous, but I'm very happy you got to see all those cats with James, and I'm sure he is going to be smiling like a Cheshire cat when we get back to camp. But here we go. I could not find the tree for the nearly impossible tree quiz, so I'm going to have to do another tree. Well, there was one guess, was it a jackalberry tree? Unfortunately not, but we're going to save it for, I think, the sunset safari. But we're going to do another one now. Nearly Impossible Tree Quiz Mark II. This one's not as nearly impossible as the last Nearly Impossible Tree Quiz. It's a little bit easier because I have shown it to you more recently. Now, I'm hoping I can find a pod, and I can. Ha-ha. So there we go. We only really find them around seep lines, and they never really get big. The elephants keep them quite plump, but this area has got some particularly big ones. and very difficult to get a nice branch for you. There we go. Very tough tree or bush. It's beating me at the moment. Oh no, oh dear. Alright, there we go. There's more of those. Okay. Now I'm sure there's going to be some very fast people who are going to know this tree very quickly. So I'm going to pop it on the dash, and they're the seed pods. Now the seed pods are the big giveaway. Okay, there we go. So if you know the answer to what tree this is, pop me an email, questions@WildEarth.TV, or use the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. I'm scared there are going to be some lightning fast answers this morning, but if we have a look, as I said, the clue is in the seed pod. And the seed pod, I think I'm sitting on my mic, there we go, is that better? Okay, so the clue is in the seed pod, and it looks like some little creature. But we'll leave it at that, so let you ponder, what is this nearly impossible tree of the day? The problem is you guys are getting so good that we have to work harder and harder to find the nearly impossible tree. And as I said so quickly, Joey, aka the Monkey Man from Australia, is correct. A caterpillar bush, or a hairy caterpillar bush. Now, they grow along seaplines in certain parts of the Lowveld. They're quite rare, and they're quite rare because of their medicinal use. Now, it's quite a funny one, and to be PC, it is the traditional version of the little blue pill. And so aging gentlemen out in the bush tend to harvest this little bush to help with their love life. I'll leave it at that. So the hairy caterpillar bush. And the Latin name is a bit of a mouthful. It's Podocarpum, if I remember correctly. Unfortunately, I forgot my book this morning, but it is Odocarpum, Podocarpum. Well, it could be the other way around. Your brain does tend to get quite full of all these different scientific names, and very interesting if we actually move on to scientific names. And most of the newer scientific names are derived from Latin. The older ones, and sometimes not the older ones, but the others, are quite often derived from ancient Greek. So it's a very interesting combination, obviously mixed in with local languages from areas, as well as regional dialects, and then mixed into Latin. So a very, very interesting thing if you start looking a bit deeper into the scientific names and where the history of them come from. I mean, the easier ones, like the elephant, Loxodonta africanum, long teeth of Africa, and my personal favorite is of course, the spiral-horned I don't know. So the Traphalagus, which is the spiral-horned antelope, that refers to the spirals of the horn, and then Angazi, which is I don't know in Zulu. So that is my personal favorite, the spiral-horned I don't know. And then also sometimes there's a person's name worked in, and that's more common in plants. But if we talk about the spiral-horned antelope, who are my favorite family of antelope, the Sitatunga, which we don't get here, which occurs much further to the north, is a Traphalagus speakii, named after the explorer Speke, who discovered the mountains of the moon and the source of the Nile. So Burton and Speke were the two explorers that found one of the sources of the Nile, and also one of the first people to describe Sitatunga. So the sort of scientists of yesteryear, how they used to identify new species was generally at the other end of a shotgun. So they would shoot it and then draw it and take pictures, or not take pictures. A lot of them didn't even have that. They would have to sketch out and do the anatomy. Fortunately, these days we can shoot with one of these. So if we find a new species, we don't have to kill it to identify it. So I think cheetah plains might be worthwhile on the sunset safari, just because I think there's going to be an incredible influx of elephants around those two water holes. So it could be definitely worth coming down, but we'll see what's happening in the north when we head back up there. We've just got one last little water hole to check, and we should be there in about 4 minutes. Now, I do love a good explorer story, and I'm going to tell you a few. So, Joey, before we get on to our explorer stories, in Australia, aka Monkey Man, is wondering, is there a chance of seeing eland on cheetah plains? I have never seen eland in the Sabi Sands. The closest I've seen eland here is in the Timbavati. There's always a chance, but it's highly unlikely. They do prefer a slightly, and you never know. With this drought, it's possible. I mean, we had a sable randomly arrive on the Djuma dam cam at night, and I think we've probably got a better chance of seeing sable during this drought than eland. But as I said, that is the wonderful thing about being in a 13 million acre open system. You never know what's going to pop up. I'm still hoping for the first art wolf sighting in the Sabi Sands since 1973. I think I might do a little jig for joy on the bonnet if we find one of those. So we've got the little Cheetah Plains Lodge pan coming up. Here we go. Lovely little open area in front of the Cheetah Plains Lodge. Brings through quite a few animals. You get lots of nice water buck around here, and of course occasionally a big cat or three. Alas, this morning there's not even an impala. Seems that on this sunrise safari, Commander Bond has been blessed with all the heartbeats, and we've had to sort of flatline with a little beat every now and then. So from the small waterhole at Cheetah Plains, let's go have a look at a much bigger one in the far west on Arathusa.
Lakewood. One of the dead one, I mean.
Hello everybody, we're just trying to figure out, we're sitting here, we don't know where to look, there are birds everywhere, and Viam just spotted a goshawk, which we will go back and try and see. I'll just run through the species of birds that we have here. There we have a hammerkop, or hammerhead. Just beyond him, we've got an African jacana, or lily trotter. There he is, trotting on the lilies, eating little insects and snails probably. Then beyond that, we've got two African spoonbills, sweeping their spoon-shaped bills through the water in search, I think, of also small invertebrates. And then beyond them, sitting imperiously, a grey heron, and beyond him, sitting even more imperiously and slightly ominously, a white-backed vulture, which has clearly been up to some kind of eating. And I suspect the white-backed vulture, if it takes off from here, if it's very lucky, it might catch sight of that buffalo carcass. Now, VMP, there's another bird there next to the hippopotamus, and that, of course, is a blacksmith lapwing. I just want to confirm quickly what those spoonbills eat, because I think I may have told you a lie. But it wasn't on purpose, I promise. So there's the blacksmith lapwing. What do you got there? Egyptian geese. And we had a question yesterday, and because my memory is not that fantastic, I forget who it was from, about whether or not or why we are not seeing the barbel or the catfish. And it was simply because, of course, the water at Djuma, those dams there, all ran out of water. Buffelshoek and Twin Dams and Djuma Dam, they all ran out of water. This has not quite gone dry yet. And in that melee there, in that kind of last dying amount of sort of muddy puddle, we've just seen a great emergence of barbel or catfish. They seem to have stopped moving completely. The spoonbill, everybody, eats small fish and some invertebrates. So I didn't lie to you, which is a great relief to me. We can go back a little bit and see if we can't spot this goshawk, of course, which is a very interesting smaller raptor. VMP, how far back do we need to go? Say when?
So who was saying I was going to chase squirrels? I'm just giving the other presenters a chance to find things. Becky, how naughty of you, Becky. That's rude. Agreed, Brian. Just rude, plain rude, Becky. Well, that's fine. I think for the next few drives, Brian, we're only going to do trees and grass. Oh, there's no grass, so it's only trees. Hooray. Not even a bird. Or we could do soil types. I think soil types, let's not look for animals, let's just do soil types for the next few drives. And maybe I'll chase a squirrel or two. I think I'll catch one, Brian. Alright. Well, I don't think I'll catch one though. Maybe a baby squirrel. But speaking of squirrels, let's look for a squirrel. A dog that was called Skumba, which is a Zulu word for skin, because when it was a puppy, you could roll the skin over its eyes and make it blind. We had Kubu, which is Tswana for hippo, because when she was a puppy, she used to eat so fast and so much, she used to expand like a little hippo. And then I still probably the strangest name of a dog that has ever existed in our family. When she arrived as a puppy, she just looked very, very stupid. So we called her Doofus, and it stuck. My mother was, of course, horrified. But Doofus was by far one of my or definitely my favorite dog over all the years. Beautiful big boerboel. So we might lose you for a second or two, but I'll be up and out through the little, quickly across to James before I lose you.
There, everybody, is an African hawk eagle standing resplendently in a tree, and I think its mate, which seems to be a juvenile, is flying just above us, but not viewable with the camera. I can just see him sort of floating off towards the south of where we are now. You're looking due north at the moment at a lazier African hawk eagle. Big bird, probably about 1.5 feet long, maybe 2 feet long at least. I'm thinking about Franklin's for breakfast. What are you thinking about for breakfast, Viam?
Bacon, eggs, maybe some baked beans.
Some baked beans. Well, I'm glad I won't be driving with you this afternoon.
It's an open vehicle.
Doesn't matter. Sometimes we're still and the air is still. I'll have to take a picular of the hawk eagle. Obviously a world-winning shot. Have you had enough? Breakfast time.
I want to see your
the picular
picture.
VM wants to see my picular picture. There you are. Margaret, you say a 5-star day for VM and I. Yeah, we've been so lucky, you know, and it's very tempting, especially when I was a younger guy, to come out and you have a day like this and you think, you know, I know how to do this job, it's easy. Just drive around the corners, you know, Your instinct will take you to where the animals are. It's blind luck 95% of the time, and I feel it's important to acknowledge that rather than claim any form of skill at this stage. Very, very lucky we've been. But we'll take it with both hands, because we know that at some stage we're going to be victim to a much quieter day. Not so, Viam.
Yes.
So we'll take it with joy.
I also think you should rub it in Brent's face while you have the chance.
Well, you see, the point is that there is nobody better at face rubbing than Brent Leo Smith, so you really don't want to get into that space, because when he does find or have a good day, you don't want to be in that space. All right, that's going to be it from us, everybody. Thank you very much for your contribution. Thanks for chatting to us and for coming along on what must have been a difficult drive. You know, leopards and elephants and lions and buffalo on Cheetah Plains must have been a very slow 3 hours, so thank you for putting up with it while you did. Thank you, Viam, for your efforts today. We'll hand you back to Brent for the last minute of the drive, and I'll see you either this afternoon or tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.
Now, I think that little last bit from James was a little dig at me, because far from being a quiet morning, James has had leopard cubs, male lions, apparently wonderful elephant sighting. We did have a really nice big herd of buffalo and some elephants through the leaves, but that's how it goes, and that's why we have 2 vehicles out here, so we can cover more ground and show you the most amazing stuff possible. But I'm definitely going to have to up my game, otherwise I'm never going to be able to walk into camp with my head up held high, and we'll see what happens on the sunset safari. Now, just to let everyone know, we will have a presenter having his trial drive on the sunset safari, so get excited to meet someone new, and I'm just going to leave him as a bit of a mystery. So I'll leave it for him to tell you all about himself on this evening's sunset safari. And don't worry, none of us, James, Jamie, or I, or Steph, are going anywhere. We're just expanding the team. So we're going to be having a look at a few more people over the next while. So very exciting times. But as we drew towards the end of the sunrise safari, it's been absolutely splendid having you all on the back. And I can't wait to do it again in a few short hours. So from Brian, the Thumb, and myself, toodaloo, and we will see you just now.